Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. A warm welcome in today's lecture. As you all must be aware, we are doing the elective English syllabus for intermediate second year. We are following the NCERT textbook Kaleidoscope. We were halfway through the explanation of the poem On Shakespeare by John Milton in the last lecture, and today we will be doing the remaining half of the poem. So, without much delay, let us begin. I'll first read the lines and then go by a line by line explanation. For whilst to the shame of slow endeavouring art thy easy numbers flow, and that each heart hath from the leaves of thy unvalued book those Delphic lines with deep impression took. In these four lines, Milton is continuing the idea from the above lines. He had already said that Shakespeare had built a monument of his works in his own lifetime, and they are enough for people to remember him. And he doesn't need any kind of other structures for remembrance. Milton also says that Shakespeare's works are safe inside the heart and minds of his readers and of the people who love his writings. So, continuing that previous idea, Milton is saying in these four lines that other writers, when they are compared with Shakespeare's effortless genius, they have a slow endeavoring art. Which means that when we compare other writers with Shakespeare's works, in short, it can be said that there is no comparison at all because Shakespeare's genius is effortless. It is something God gifted and it is something that is natural, whereas the other writers have a slow endeavoring art, which means that they have to continuously toil and work hard and sweat to produce some writing that is worthy of being read or being remembered. Okay, so he is in a way expressing over here the great effortless genius of William Shakespeare. But still, when the other writers they work so hard, even then they are not able to match Shakespeare's greatness. Why? Because Shakespeare's writings are natural, they are God gifted. Okay, so they hardly match the grandeur and the swift writings of Shakespeare, which flow easily from his pen. Okay, so Milton goes on to say that every heart who has read Shakespeare has been deeply touched and impressioned by Shakespeare's greatness. Milton calls Shakespeare's words and Shakespeare's writings and his lines as Delphic lines. You can see those Delphic lines with deep impression took. Okay, so what does Delphic lines mean? This word Delphic lines is an allusion. This phrase is an allusion or a reference to a place called Delphi. Okay, and it abounds in stories of saints and oracles and prophets. So, in a way, Milton is trying to state here in this phrase that Shakespeare's words are prophetic. His words were prophetic and they were full of a deep understanding of human life and human emotions, so they touched every soul that read them. Okay, and every soul was touched in a unique manner, in mysterious ways. So Delphic lines is the phrase that he is using for Shakespeare's writings. In the last four lines, Milton says, Then thou, our fancy of itself bereaving, dost make us marble with too much conceiving, and so sepulchred in such pomp dost lie, that kings for such a tomb would wish to die. So, as I had told you previously, the word thou means you. Okay, so he is addressing Shakespeare all throughout the poem. As I had told you that he's addressing Shakespeare. Maybe Shakespeare is before him, or he is imagining that Shakespeare is before him and he's talking to Shakespeare. So he has used this word thou. And Milton says in these last four lines that after we read Shakespeare, and his prophetic words, our sensibility and our minds are so touched and impressed by his writings and his deep understanding of human nature and relationships that our fancy or our happiness or our joy, it vanishes, and our fancy is transformed into bereavement. It is replaced by bereavement, by sorrow, by sadness, and uh, does make us marvel with too much conceiving. So he is talking to Shakespeare and he's saying that when we read your works, Shakespeare, what happens? Our fancy turns into sadness, our fancy turns into sorrow, and because the understanding of human life is something, when you understand it quite deeply, it is prone to give you some sadness, okay, because in the end we all die, and in the end nothing remains but memories. So it is all a very sad thought, sad idea. But he says that when we read Shakespeare's works, they make us marvel with too much conceiving. So here he is referring to this making of marble in a kind of tomb. You see that when a tomb is made, when somebody dies and a structure is made in his remembrance, especially when somebody great dies and a tomb is made, then what is the tomb made of? It is made of stones like marble. So here the marble is referring to this tomb. And what is the tomb actually? It is ourselves. It is the people who read Shakespeare. Their heart turns into marble, into this kind of a structure like a tomb, in which Shakespeare's works are conceived, in which they are understood, and in which they permanently remain. Okay. So here also this idea is being conveyed by Milton to us, that when we read Shakespeare's works, we conceive too much, we are touched so much that they make a permanent place in our hearts and we never forget them. Or anybody who reads Shakespeare never forgets his words or the emotions or his writings. Okay. So what does he say in the last two lines? And so sepulchred in such pomp does lie, that kings for such a tomb would wish to die. So he is also referring to Shakespeare in these lines, and he's saying that, and so what happens? You are lying inside our hearts. Your memories, your writings are were safe like a safety vault in our hearts, and they are lying there with great pomp, with great decoration, with great attachment, with great love. Okay. So Shakespeare is being remembered with great love by all those people who have read him and who continue to read him generation after generation. Okay. So he is there safe in our hearts. His works are there safe in our hearts, and our hearts are like tombs made of marble, sepulchres made of marble. What is a sepulcher? A sepulcher is also a structure in which the dead remains of a person are buried. Okay. So Milton is saying in the last line that kings for such a tomb would wish to die. So in the end, he concludes the poem saying that this kind of tomb that Shakespeare has got, that Shakespeare has built for himself in the hearts of the people, such kind of a tomb is something that even kings die for. Even kings would desire such a tomb, that after they die, people remember them, people remember the work that they did, people remember their greatness. But it doesn't happen because kings, they do something that doesn't touch the people that much. And here he's comparing the works of other rulers to that of Shakespeare. Shakespeare was a real ruler because he ruled the hearts of people, he ruled the emotions of people, and so he is there inside our hearts. And such a tomb is something that only Shakespeare deserves and nobody else, because of the genius that Shakespeare was. So I hope that you have understood the poem. With this, we come to the end of this poem. And the poem was a short one and not very difficult. If you read it twice or thrice and go through the lectures, at least twice, then I hope you will be able to understand the poem quite well. And still, if you have any doubts, and if you want me to explain some part once again, or you want any sort of explanation, then you can please write them down in the comments so that I can answer them. So, with this, we come to the end of this poem, and in the next lecture, we will start with a fresh poem by William Blake. And till then, I'd request you to read the poems that we have done till now and the poem that we will be doing, the first poem by William Blake. So please read about William Blake, something, do your bit of research until we meet next. So hopefully, see you in the next lecture. Thank you.